Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Every year, millions of Muslims around the world lose opportunities, not because they lack ambition, intelligence, or discipline, but because of one silent assumption, the belief that if something involves money and profit, it must be haram. But what if that assumption is costing the Ummah billions? Pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many times have you turned away from an investment because you weren't 100% sure it was halal? How many times did you see others getting ahead, buying property, starting businesses, building portfolios, while you stayed on the sidelines waiting for the perfect halal investment? What if I told you that some of the very things Muslims avoid most are actually among the most halal, ethical, and wealth-building opportunities, when done correctly? Today, we're going to uncover 3 investments Muslims often avoid, but shouldn't. And by the end of this video, you'll see how the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, economic principles weren't about fear of money, but mastery of it. Stay with me till the end, because the 3rd investment might just reshape how you think about halal wealth altogether. Let's begin with a truth many don't like to hear. Avoiding money doesn't make you pious. It often just makes you poor. Across the Muslim world, and especially among Muslims in the West, financial fear has become almost cultural. Many of us were taught that wealth is dangerous, that staying safe means avoiding anything that looks like business or investing. But the early Muslims, they were traders, merchants, and builders. They moved wealth. They didn't hide from it. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anh was a cloth merchant. Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anh financed entire armies through trade. And the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, himself managed the business of Khadijah radiyallahu anha before prophethood. So the question is, when did we start believing that building halal wealth meant staying broke? Because every time you park your money in a savings account that earns nothing while inflation eats away its value, every time you delay investing because you're still researching, you're silently losing, not just money, but impact. Our first investment Muslims avoid, yet shouldn't, is real estate. Why? Because too many Muslims think real estate is only for the rich. But in truth, real estate is one of the oldest halal investments in existence. In classical fiqh, land ownership and trade were the backbone of the Muslim economy. Owning land wasn't just about profit, it was about stability, community, and legacy. Yet today, many Muslims rent their entire lives, paying off someone else's mortgage because they fear that taking a halal mortgage or entering joint ownership might somehow cross into haram. Here's the truth. If you structure it correctly, through Islamic financing, shared ownership, musharaka, or rent-to-own, ijara models, you can build halal property portfolios without touching interest. And here's something even more powerful. Real estate is an asset you can see, touch, and pass down. It's wealth that can serve the Ummah, building halal businesses, Islamic schools, and community centers. Ask yourself, if every Muslim family in your city owned even one property, how much stronger would your community be? How much less dependent would we be on renting from others? And yet, as powerful as real estate is, it's only the beginning, because the second investment Muslims avoid could transform global Muslim wealth altogether. Here's the irony. Most Muslims think investing in stocks equals gambling. But in Islamic economics, owning part of a company, sharing in its profit and loss, is exactly what's encouraged. Riba, interest, is forbidden, but risk sharing is halal. When you buy shares in a halal company, you're not gambling. You're partnering. You're supporting a business that provides real goods and services, employs people, and contributes to the economy. Now, yes, the stock market can be dangerous if you treat it like a casino, but if you approach it with discipline, research, halal screening, and long-term vision, it's one of the most powerful halal wealth tools available today. And here's what most people miss. There are Islamic index funds and Shariah-compliant ETFs built exactly for Muslims who want to invest safely. So the question is, why are Muslims still afraid? Maybe because we've never been taught how money works in Islam. Because while others grow their portfolios, we're still debating whether investing itself is too risky. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The third investment Muslims avoid isn't about money at all. It's about something deeper, something that can multiply both your wealth and your reward. Let's talk about an investment with infinite returns. Social impact investments. This is where halal finance meets legacy. The Quran says, "The example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed of grain that grows 7 ears. In every ear there are 100 grains." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:261. When Muslims think of sadaqah, we think of giving, not growing. But what if you could do both? Imagine funding a small halal business in your community. Imagine investing in a Muslim farmer's land, helping them grow crops and share profits ethically, or supporting microfinance projects that lift families from poverty while generating sustainable income. This is impact investing the halal way, where your money doesn't just multiply for you, but for others. And here's the beauty. When you structure your wealth around purpose, Barakah follows. Because in Islam, the best investments are those that circulate, not stagnate. But there's one more truth most Muslims never hear. The real loss isn't from bad investments. It's from doing nothing at all. Halal wealth isn't about chasing luxury. It's about building stability, generosity, and dignity. The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said the upper hand is better than the lower hand, meaning the hand that gives is better than the one that asks. And you can't give if you never build. So start learning, start small, and start today. Because waiting for perfect knowledge before taking action is how wealth dies in hesitation. Every investment has risks, but with intention, knowledge, and halal structure, that risk becomes reward. So here's the challenge for you. Which of these 3 halal investments will you start learning about this week? Real estate, halal stocks, or social impact ventures? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if this video opened your eyes to a new way of thinking about money, click subscribe. Because this is only the beginning. We're building a generation of Muslims who earn with integrity and spend with purpose. This is the Halal Wealth Guide, where we don't just talk about money, we talk about Muslim mastery of it.